There's no one way to tell a story, but the heart of this play is we're telling the story, and that's the one thing that's been driving us from day one of rehearsals.
Yes, the constellation of the heart. So there.
Show it to me then.
No!
It all began one night at a cast party. It was actually the cast party for The Drowsy Chaperone, which Helen was in. I wasn't. I just showed up to the cast party.
He was a guest of honor.
Hey, I loved it so much. I had to go party with the cast. We discovered there common love of theater. We were from the same hometown.
I was going to say the common hometown of Prince Edward Island. It's not a town, but it's a province.
It's a town. It's small enough that it could be a town. But both love theater, both from Prince Edward Island, never met each other. And
know a lot of the same people, though.
Yeah, oh yeah. And then at the party, we got to discover, it's like, oh, you know this person? I know this person. You know this person? And then it just kind of went on and on. Then it turned into, we should work on something together. And, you know, people say, like, oh, yeah, you and I should go get coffee soon. It's
it
just
never
like,
happens.
Never happens. But then Helen dropped Saltwater Moon. And that's when we lost cabin pressure. And I said,
everyone else in the room disappeared.
it just became her and I for a moment.
Oh, like what? Like running off last August, that's what? Or has that suddenly slipped your mind? Didn't have the courage to say goodbye, did you? Not so much as a card in the past year.
I'm no good with cards.
I wrote your mother.
Once.
Twice.
Twice then.
I went to see her that Sunday.
This is a play about a broken heart.
It's pretty vulnerable. There's a lot of vulnerable spaces in the play, but there's also lots of
levity.
Yeah,
fun.
there's some lightness. There's
Yes.
yeah,
But these two people, they it's one wants one thing, other wants the other thing. The tension lives there, man. And Jacob especially brings so much because he doesn't like that tension. He's really trying to smooth things over. Puts in a lot of like just humor, not comedy, but humor, like to try and lighten up.
and they both know how to push each other's buttons. Like Mary will
yeah.
push and push and push, but then Jacob just like pushes right back.
On my
and
tooth, Billy did, and he prayed, and a second later, and the pain was gone. That's it.
Sorry to trouble you, Billy. Next time, I'll just get spruce.
Oh, once you get going, you can't stop, can you? No mistake.
The space here, it's not just a good event space, it's actually perfect for this story.
Oh, Justin and I walked in to this space and looked around and immediately looked at each other and said, Yep.
This is it. This is where the magic's gonna happen. What's cool about this play is it's set on the steps of a house near water, and my character is returning from Toronto. He just got off the train, so I get to make my entrance off a train while Helen gets to work on an actual step. David French exquisitely wrote in the stage direction, which reads like poetry. He described the building as being like a house built by men who built their homes the same way they built their ships. To last. And so there's just so much history that lives here, so much history, such rich environment. And I don't know, it'd be cool to do it in a theater, but how lucky are we to get the chance to do this in an unconventional space and really illuminate qualities of this text that deserve to be told the best way it possibly can.
In my hands? Why, look, boys, it's the prodigal son all the way back from Toronto, straight up the drum.
Well, now who's being foolish?
You're lucky I'm still speaking to you. Most wouldn't let you step foot in the yard.
We self-directed, which at times can be really difficult, but I feel like we both follow our instincts really, really well, and so it's easy to play off of each other, and also giving ourselves our own like personal criticism feedback, but also towards each other, and never like anything negative, but just like, well, let's try it this way, or let's
yeah.
What is wrong with you? It could probably be a little bit farther. Yeah.
a lot of words,
A lot of talking.
a lot of emotions,
A lot of talking.
a lot of emotions that we've had to tap into that I don't think either of us have tapped into for a long time. And so finding those honest places inside of us to bring the story to life.
Yeah, and I think a big thing, has been balancing the left brain of the producer and the right brain of the artist to really it's like, yeah, all right, we got the sponsorship. All right, we got the space. Oh, now we have to actually tell the story.
Mm-hmm.
Now we actually have to do it and go to those places. And I'm really glad that we started this so many months ago. We put a lot of time into this so we could really be comfortable, not just with the text, but with us.
Yeah,
to
each other.
earn that trust with one another so we can open up and say, okay, like, I'm going there today.
She saw him turn the bend to the road, she said, and he was gone. Just vanished from her life like a stranger.
There's no limit to what you can do if you allow yourself to utilize any of the resources that you have around you.
It's not as far-fetched as it might sound. The steps we took to make this happen, they were quite practical. Like, we just picked a date that worked on our schedule, the venue schedule, made sure it wasn't in competition with anything else in town. It's like, well, who might want to support this? Look to some businesses. They were able to offer some financial support to help us afford just the practical costs, like the rights and the use of the space. And then it's like, oh, we need someone to help design. Well, who do you know? Like, who do you know? Don't be afraid to ask.
And don't be afraid to think like outside of the box too, because you know, you have this sort of vision that everything needs to be this kind of like cookie cutter way. But when you start thinking outside of the box, it's like cool how things can just come together.
There's no one way to tell a story, but the heart of this play is we're telling the story, and that's the one thing that's been driving us from day one of rehearsals. No matter if we're in the garage, a backyard, camping out beside the water, just to have space where it's okay to be loud. The one thing was tell the story.
Yeah, we would say that to each other every time before we start the rehearsal. We'd say, tell the story. I'm speaking to you, you're speaking to me, we're telling each other the story.
We're here.
That was it.
Takes a lot of trust, but I couldn't think of someone better to do it with.